Okay, I put the book here. I don't know why there's chairs. Morning, everyone. Rebecca has a newborn baby in her arms right now, because that's why she's in Belfast. She didn't join us in person, but she can hear us okay. So can you say hi to her?
Hello, Rebecca.
Okay, you can do better than this.
Hello, Rebecca.
Okay, let's try again.
Hello, Rebecca.
I'm sure she's delighted.
Morning.
I think her baby is awake, so we managed to say morning. This is where we're coming from. This is our lovely Hanyang building, named after its architect. This is Ireland. The tiny little white spot is Belfast, and I'll also talk about a little bit about the west side of the Red Island. And we're all going to the other side of this big chunk of biggest piece of land on our world. So it's really exciting to be here. This is Rebecca. The book contains a lot of student work, so I'll explain it quite quickly, hopefully, after this. Rebecca she's now a licensed architect, and she finished her PhD as well. While we were doing the book, she was a PhD student in our university, not with me. She worked on sustainable architecture with Professor Greg. Before that, she was doing her master's dissertation, and Americans say thesis, we say dissertation and PhD thesis. She was doing her dissertation with me on cinema and architecture. And I approached her after, when she was doing PhD, and I said, I want to do this book with the best dissertations that were written in the last 5-6 years. And I would like to edit it with you. She agreed, and here we are. So this is some of her other work. There's wonderful illustrations that you will see in the book that are all by Rebecca. But as part of her sustainable architecture thesis and project, she was envisioning quite interesting innovative ways of looking at cities where you can elevate a city if there's flooding, in the future, or you can guard the city or sponge the city to absorb the water. So these are some of the images related to that. I'm sure I didn't explain it that well, but what can we do? Okay. This is some of my research. These are books ending with this lovely one from May 23. The second one is my PhD dissertation, not published. The other ones are books. Especially for female researchers, the pandemic was quite tough, especially with the ones with young families. I was kind of luckier. I was really bored. I'm a very social person, so I was at home sitting, just working because I had projects, and it was a good time not to socialize, but write. We have a shut up and write program in Queens, which is quite lovely. You can't do anything else, you just sit down and write with other people in the room. So these two books both came out in 2023 as part of all the work we have produced with Christopher and with Rebecca during the pandemic. So it all started with Mr. Hugo. Some of you may know these two films, My Uncle and Playtime from France, from mid-20th century, educator. This is my wonderful college where I studied in Turkey, where I'm originally from, in Ankara, Middle East Technical University. And in this building, very close to what you see here, a tutor whose name I can't even remember showed us these two films when I was in my 3rd year of architecture. And I was going through a very modernist kind of education in a very modernist, like Bauhaus building, brutalist, and seeing a big criticism of modernism in those films were mind-opening for me. And I always had the issue of producing drawings, orthographic drawings, plan sections, elevations, models that never showed the life in architecture. We, as architects, as designers, we envision this life and social activities and future for the buildings we design, but you can't it's hard to show those in two-dimensional drawings. So I was like, film can do that. Film is about lived space. From that on, and the next year, in my final year, I decided to work on cinema and architecture during my master's, which I did. So this is September, it's going to be 30 years starting that journey with Mr. Hulot. So this was my master's dissertation based on that enlightenment with Jae films. I focused on European cinema, particularly from Britain, Peter Greenaway, and from Germany, Wim Wenders, wrote about their way of representing architecture as a character in their films, and focused on these two films particularly. And then in my PhD, I started to look into science fiction cinema because I was more interested in how architectural space was changing, and this is like 20 years ago, changing with the digitally supported spaces that we have on either on Earth or outside. So exospace, a term I coined, means spaces as humans we design outside of Earth. So space stations, lunar bases, those would be exospaces. These are obviously wouldn't be possible without computers, so they're digitally supported. Cyberspace being the internet as we know it today, and virtual reality, or now also big augmented reality, what I called hyperspace at the time. So I'm interested in all of that, including nowadays AI. And I was comparing architectural space and how it started to change with the digital spaces. And in the next step, so that is kind of real. And then in the next step, I was looking at fiction, science fiction, through 2001 by Stanley Kubrick, a lovely small Belgian film called In Love, that's in French, and then The Matrix, the first one. And then this is the other pandemic baby for me, with Christopher Wilson from Raymond College in Florida. And he was a former colleague of mine back in Turkey. And then we both moved, elsewhere. But we started collaborating about 10 years ago to write this book. It's all about how Berlin changed during the 20th century and after. And Berlin is considered as a city of becoming. It keeps changing, it still changes. Every time I go, it's different, some things are different. We looked at the architecture, not the designs of the buildings, but how buildings change, how buildings live their lives, transformed during the period when cinema was part of the city, so since 1895. And we looked at how urban memory changed as the buildings and places changed in the city. I can go deeper, but I don't want to focus on this one. I'm going to focus on this one. So it started in 2011 because that is when I started teaching in Queen's University. And my dissertation students, with the team I gave them cinema and architecture, they started writing 10,000 word pieces, and they all approached it in a different way, as you can imagine. So this went on for 5-6 years, and then later we started with the idea of editing the book. But that all started with Blaine's work. Okay, I'll talk about Blaine's work, which is the first chapter after introduction in a minute. But I also use this field of research directly in my teaching. So this is my studio where students with both architectural and art or design or film background come together in a design studio. They make films, they analyze films. I have certain visual ways for them to explore, like storyboarding, spatial layering, mood painting, collage, abstraction, poster. They do those, and then they use those same techniques to design buildings or to make films or set design, which sort of changes their way of looking at architectural design, because architectural design is usually, not always, but usually from top down. Whereas we start with, like making a film, we start with shooting scenes and then montaging, editing them together. We look at a storyboard of a building, for instance, that hasn't been even drawn up in plan. Look at how such an auditorium would look, what kind of atmosphere we want, a bit like a filmmaker, and then how we would want the main entrance to be, how we would like the corridors be like, etc. Whatever spaces they think will be important in their buildings, and then they montage those together. So it's an additive approach compared to what we usually do, which is almost subtractive. We look at the big mass of the building and then we divide it up. I'm really simplifying it here in front of an architect, so bear with me, just to make my point about the difference. Then after starting this in undergraduate, testing it for a few years, I developed this new master's program, Applied Architecture and Design, together with a cinematic architecture certificate program. So you can either do a full master's in a year or do a part-time certificate, which is just the 2 studios, in our art studios, and then learn about these technique and approach. This is the master's. This is the certificate. These are all student illustrations. And why I do that in Belfast? Well, Belfast had a big linen industry and a shipbuilding industry. The most famous sunken building, the Titanic, was built in Belfast. I don't know why, but we're really proud of a sunken ship. And then it was a post-industrial, city in Northern Ireland in the UK. And the film industry is now becoming, in my opinion, the new shipbuilding industry. It's making Belfast, putting it on the map of cinematic cities, especially with Game of Thrones and other productions like High Rise, I recommend. So this was the undergrad version. I tested the ideas in 1 semester, and then it grew into a year-long program. And I also do urban filmmaking workshops where participants from any background join us. It's my way of giving what I learn and produce in my research to the community. You come in and do a Monday to Friday, very intense workshop. You learn how to make films, and then you also talk about the city that we're in as we make the film. So we look at the city through the lens of the camera. Is my voice coming and going? Okay, no? It's fine? I hear an echo. CA City, CA City is our website if you want to check out cacity.org. And I also do, I'm interested in on the side, okay, I should go a bit faster. On the side, really interested, being a migrant myself, and my ancestors migrating from a Greek island, Crete, back to Turkey in 1920s, and I'm a migrant by choice. I'm really interested in divided communities, displaced people, migration, forced migration as well, with having more than 5 million Syrian refugees back in Turkey. So I do these film series with an art cinema in Belfast with Film Theatre. And every year we show 3 films where it's a story that is not taking sides about divided communities, and we discuss with experts. And then my cinema art students make an exhibition in the cinema foyer related to that. I'm explaining these because I'm a big fan of taking out the student work to the world. like with this book. And there are many different ways to do that. Okay, the book. I was going to read a section, but I'll skip that, I think. This is lovely, Rebecca. When we received copies from Common Ground for the first time, obviously we are in a pub. This is our local pub in Belfast. And her first reaction was, oh, it's so big. It's really, really a big book. And we were really amazed by Patricia Alonso-Co's design of the book. She did a great job. But those illustrations, the one on the facade and the ones you'll see from the inside, are all by Rebecca. So we divided it into 5 sections: the spaces of confinement in film, spaces of the psyche, spaces of the city, spaces of the imagination, and a space of actuality would be a section where students don't look at film, but other spaces like look at film theaters like cinema palaces, Art Deco ones in Chicago in 20s, 30s, for instance, or somebody is writing about the experience of the city by walking versus by skateboarding, and he was filming his experience to complement the thesis, to show how the similarities and differences between walking and skateboarding in the city. That became a very big book, so I recommend don't do more than like 12 chapters. It's way more work this way, and the book becomes really big. But I wouldn't change anything now looking at this. By the way, if somebody is interested in reviewing this book and writing a book review about it, you're more than welcome. You'll get this copy of the book if you volunteer for that today. And I'm going to start showing quickly these chapters, say a few words about them. And so what I would like you to do, there's 17 of them here, and don't look at the text, look at the images and try to guess this illustration coming from which film. So count the ones that you think you know. Obviously you can read now, this one is from Solaris. So if you looked at it and guess that, count it as 1. At the end, I'll ask everyone how many you guessed, okay? So Blaine was one of my first students, really bright guy, wrote a fantastic piece on Tarkovsky's Solaris, and then he won the writing award within the whole master's students in the school. And then I said, Blaine, I'll take you to a conference. What do you think? And he said, okay. We went to Liverpool, and that was the first time I did this conference. I can't remember when, 2011, probably, or 12. I had done the humanities one in Paris in 27. That's my first Common Ground conference, but the art one was first in Liverpool, which was a great experience. I presented the paper, he presented this, and then it was published in the Journal of Common Ground. And since then, I've been a big fan of this conference. And I also enjoy the fact that, especially for younger, early career researchers, they do the publications. And I encourage my, especially PhD students, to publish with Common Ground, go to conferences. This is really interesting because nobody cares about corridors, even architects, but Chris wanted to write about corridors in film, like this one, High Rise, and Old Boy, which is a Korean film that we love, and many other corridors, The Matrix, looking at it from the filmmaker's perspective. You can probably guess this one. So Matthew wrote about, again, Old Boy comes up in this one, and Truman Show. And it's really nice that some films come into the discussion in different chapters, but the authors, the architects, look at it in a totally different way. Although all of them are looking at film through an architectural perspective. These are really interesting ones. Tina was my PhD student, and then she finished. And this one was about Memento and Trainspotting from Scotland. And she was looking at how the psychology of the character is depicted using film. And some good directors can do that well. This is Rebecca's chapter, which is on Hitchcock. She looked at Rebecca, Psycho, and Rear Window. Rear Window is a must-see film for architects. We love it. And she won the writing award in her year and became a PhD student. Hagen did something interesting. So this is all about fear. And these three are looking at feelings and emotions and the link of that with film and architecture. He went to an abandoned prison. He walked around and wrote about his feelings. He photographed it. And then he also studied Shining by Hitchcock. Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, and then linked his experience of fear to and the claustrophobia in the prison to this piece. Students can do really interesting things if you let them. So this one is Symphony of the Modern City, focusing on Berlin, Symphony of a Great City, and films like My Uncle that I mentioned at the beginning. And this is, well, this one is hard to guess. Ece is a current PhD student of mine, and she is mapping Belfast film locations using GIS, which is a really interesting experience. So there's a map, there's a geography dimension to it, and then she's creating a database for other researchers to use. And then she's choosing some themes like city in transition, city in conflict, and diving deeper into the film scenes that she's studying through Belfast. I honestly don't know which film that one is. And this is my chapter on Dark City, a very dark urban film, which I really love, by Alex Proyas, where the city keeps changing physically. So it moves. Aliens with their brain power, they change the city every night, and it's a testing ground for to study humans. But they have to study them in their spaces because that's the only way to understand, living beings, I think. And then the imagination is all about science fiction and fantasy. Cormac focused on, in a very pop art kind of way, his design. They print these, and they need to design the book as well. They are architecture students, so they do a good job. And this was all about Blade Runner in yellow, white, and black. And Blade Runner is a must-see film for architects, the original one, Ridley Scott one, but the other one is also nice. And Andrew also wrote about the same film, Blade Runner, in a totally different way. And he was looking at the film as a postmodern film, which I sort of would disagree, but he did a good job there as well. Then there was this tutor, a German colleague in Limerick on the west of Ireland. So we are in the north, we are part of the UK. He's in the other country, in the Republic of Ireland, where I used to live. And said, I have these fantastic undergraduate essays we want to publish. There's two of them, they're on cinema and architecture. Where should we send them? And I said, send them to me. We're making a book, we'll include them. So we have two guests from undergrad, this one, which is all about Wes Anderson. So Blade Runner was the big film for us. Now my students, they love Wes Anderson films because he's really, really architectural. This is from Grand Budapest Hotel. And Laura, again from Limerick, wrote about Studio Ghibli. Another fascination for the younger generation is Miyazaki's Japanese animation films, which are really spatial, really architectural, this one, I can't remember which one this is. Maybe you can tell me. Spirited Away would be my favorite out of this work. And he has a museum for Studio Ghibli. She visited that, she included that into her writing, etc. as well. And finally, the actual ones This is the skateboarding one I mentioned. Daniel also won the writing prize. And then Antoine wrote about those Chicago movie palaces from an architectural perspective and how they should be preserved as heritage sites. Clarissa is interesting. She did a Cine Art Studio in her undergrad, and then she wrote this not with me, with another supervisor on the cabinet of Dr. Caligari, architects on that one, Psycho and The Crow. And then she wrote about the film sets in these films, and now she is practicing in the film industry. She's designing film sets. That's her job now. Virgil also wrote about Berlin. We had one before. And while he was doing that, he had this piecemeal approach where like almost everything was a scene, and he was bringing these different moments in time, 20th century after World War II, in a very cinematic way. So these are some of the pages from the book. The book is very colorful. What is great, another thing that's great about Common Ground is that they don't say, oh, you can only do 5 images per chapter, it should be small, this and that. They let us include so many amazing, colorful images throughout the book. For that, together with the purple illustrations you have seen, it looks really good. And because architects can draw, students were doing storyboards themselves. Say this is the prison cell in Old Boy, and the student was drawing the different versions of the plan of the space, sections of film scenes, or mapping Belfast over there. Bringing different skills of the students into the mix of whatever you're doing with them, I think is fascinating. This is us. Now I'm asking, who managed to guess which films I was showing between up to 5? Did you guess up to, let me see hands. Did you guess any of them in the illustrations? Come on, don't be shy. There is 1, there's 2. Anyone between 5 and 10? No? Okay. 1 to 5 is good because they are an interpretation of Rebecca, so they're not that easy to do, so well done doing that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll introduce our next speaker. Microphone there. I'll grab the microphone back. Okay, so thank you for that. Let me get this back on. Is that working? Yes. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. A really beautiful book, and it's it should be inspiration for everyone else here to think about producing some books. But no, it's a really important piece of work, and it strikes me also what extraordinary contrast between Hitchcock and a skateboard. So, all right. So on the same theme now, which is architectural themes. We have a professor here from the School of Architecture at Hanyang University. And I'm probably going to pronounce your name incorrectly as well. It's Jae Kyung Kim, and he's going to speak to reimagining forgotten architecture. So welcome. Pleased to have you here.
Good morning. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks for inviting me for the very interesting conference. To be honest, I'm not very familiar with art and art conference, so I didn't have much information about this conference. So last night, I really worry about I'm a proper person for you guys, but luckily I have a Dr. Earl. So I'm very architect. So I hope I can give you some different aspect of field. So. Oh, this is low battery. Okay, in the meantime, did you see the festival around this university for last 3 days? We had a big festival, so we invite K-pop singers. So that was actually the most exciting moment of this university. The rest of time we are depressed. Only for 3 days we are excited. And can you open my presentation? I don't know how.
Of course, no
Yeah.
problem.
And also, I'm from this university. I did my bachelor degree in this university, and I became professor 11 years ago. So I spent 15 years in this university, but this is my first time to be physically in this building. So this is also very interesting experience as well.
Yours is here.
Yes.
Okay, then I'll change. Keep talking. I'll change the
Yep.
screen share.
Okay, so what can I say more?
You had the exhibition last year. They saw some video documentation.
Oh
of
yeah,
it.
yeah, and so I'm gonna explain some more details about my the pavilion. You probably saw that that is very close from this building.
Oh,
Yeah.
and many of them went to, you got coffee on the first day at Pandorothy, and we saw, I think that there's some of your work too in that building,
Yeah.
in the School of Architecture.
Oh,
Yes,
and also I designed the School of Architecture as well.
yes. Okay. Are you okay? Do
Yes.
you want to change the view?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then move to presenter view or
Yes, yes.
slideshow? What is better for you?
Yeah. Present this.
So
Okay.
they'll see this, but you see this.
Okay.
And then you can use
Yes, I can use this.
this, but let me check it.
Okay, I'm a educator, I'm a researcher, I'm also architect. So as an architect, as a designer, we need the inspiration, right? So I think Dr. Earth, she is inspired by the movie, but I'm inspired by the traveling. I took this photo 7 years ago in China. But this one, I mean, kind of the scene that reminds me of the memory in my childhood. I think 30, 40 years ago, there were so many constructions in this country, and my father, he brought me to the construction site, which was a dam in the local area of Korea. You know, I was very amazed by that construction site. That was probably the first moment I was interested in building and architecture and construction. And then when I visit this place, I thought why I was interested in this kind of thing. Probably I think I can see the contrast between the nature and the architects. And also, I probably was deeply inspired by the pure, materials and structure. So, and also I got the same feeling from this tower in Florida. You can see, I don't think it's just right structure, and it's a functionally designed to show the natural landscape. And also, I was very amazed by the salt warehouse in the west coast of Korea. And this one, the British pastor, he designed and constructed this small house in Jeju Island, almost I think 80 years ago, to give a better, the residential quality to the local people. At that time, Korea was one of the poorest country in the world, and spontaneously, I was interested by the traditional architecture. My education, my background of my education is all about Western architecture. interesting me. I didn't get many, Asian or traditional architectural education, in this country, as well as I studied in the U.S., but American school they don't give any, Asian history of architecture. So I decided to study Asian architecture and traditional architecture by myself. This one is located in the small island, the southern part of Korea. The one, the scholar, he built this small pavilion and some kind of the stone, the landscape things. I was very interested by the harmony and some kind of juxtaposition between the nature and the buildings, and also very strong expressionism from these small buildings in southern China, and also the gate in the Buddhist temple. I was wondering why the Korean people and Asian people they want to have a big floating loop, but that gives me kind of a phenomenological impact from the architecture, and yeah, the same feeling I got from this temple in Korea, and also space quality also is very different from the buildings in other cultures. But normally, I mean, the remaining buildings in Asia, mostly the palace and the temple, so we cannot go inside because that is mostly they are the national treasures, so they don't allow people go inside. But luckily, I went to this building, so I can feel the kind of a very special quality of interior space in the traditional buildings. So I decided to study more about the Asian architecture. So this map shows the locations and buildings I visit with almost 10 years, and yeah. And then I also preparing the publications. Probably, hopefully next year, my book will come out. I having a conversation with some publishers in Europe and America. I have to make a decision about that. So let me just show some slides, some pages of my books I'm still working on. So I analyzed. I did a analysis of representative 9 buildings in East Asia. And for example, this is the 70-meter high the Buddhist pagoda in the Shanxi, China. Yeah, I mean the most interesting thing of this pagoda is, I mean, they use the many different types of bracket systems and joinery system. So this is, I mean, it's purely constructed by timber without actually structural population. They did make, high the towers just by using the timber and joinery, and that was the most interesting thing to me. And this is the one of the oldest temple in Korea. It has very elegant, elegant, yeah, elegant shape of the loop things, and the mostly this kind of system. I mean, this system is called the dugong in China and gongpo in Korea, but I want to call it the bracket system for you guys. I mean, every buildings, every purchase, every countries, they use the different systems. I think that this is the way of showing, the different the characteristic of the buildings. I mean, for example, the carpenters the long time ago, they want to show the different quality, different characteristic of this building. So I mean, this bracket system, that's the to me, I mean, this bracket system is the key element of East Asian architecture, not only for the ornamentation but also at the same time the structure. So I decided to study more and also reinvent this bracket system for my own designing philosophy and methodology. So far I did a series of design experiment, which I adopt the idea of. Also, I try to use contemporary language of design and designs. Let me just show you the photos. Study others. And I also submit the design proposal for the Korean the Modern Art Museum in Korea. I mean, that is in the downtown. You probably visited, but they denied. And then I just made the opportunity for myself. I built the first mock-up structure in my office. So that was my office, and then I built another one in my school. And then 2 years ago, I was invited by some kind of exhibition. So I did a collaboration with a traditional carpenter. So I mean, the name of this exhibition is kind of a harmony of the future and the bracket system of future and the past. You probably saw, maybe some of you guys saw this pavilion. I mean, it initially it was in the Songhyun Park. I think it's right next to the Gyeongbok Palace, and then it was supposed to be standing for probably 2 or 3 weeks, and then people love it, so they want to keep it more. So that's why we we moved this structure to the campus. So yeah, I mean that was very interesting opportunity to me to be the big scale. Yeah, the thing I was surprised, I mean, when I start my own design, I didn't expect people like that. I mean, that's this experiment, this design things, this is the way to realize my own visions and my own, dreams. But I was very appreciated. I was very glad people actually enjoyed this structure. And so, I mean, the children, they play around, and the dance students, they also did the performance. And essentially the museum of this university and the governmental agency, they support to realize this structure. So, and also thankfully the students and alumni of this university, they helped to install this structure. I mean, this photo shows some their efforts. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a native speaker, so I can speak English, but I don't think I can convey everything I want to say perfectly. So today I prepared 3 videos. So hopefully these videos help you understand what I'm doing right now. think it has some problems. Yeah, sometimes it happens because the file of this presentation is so big. So this is 2 gigabytes file. You saw this video. Okay, so let me just go on. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because I have many slides more, but so time is really okay. So I'll show you the two. Okay, I'll show you the 2 projects today. So one is in, I mean, the the 2 projects are in the cities, but which has the very deep the historical context. The first one is that is the first architecture project I make it happening for the to the real buildings. And okay, so me and my brother, my brother is he's also professor, he's an economist, and I do kind of architecture gift to my parents. So I designed and constructed this house, and then we shared kind of construction budgets. So that is also a good chance to to make my the architecture ideology the realized. Yeah, and just let me show you the photos. And this is the first study models I did, and during the construction. So I'm gonna show the so, yeah. So this is the sketchy I did the first time, and then the construction, and then the build. So this house consists of most like the 5,000 pieces of the plywood, and I try try not to use the makes and the mathematics. I just only want to show kind of the purity of the material and structure only by using the joinery. And this is the way of joinery. Yeah, in the first kind of beginning, I mean the ravers, they are very confused about the system. And after it was built, the inside. Yeah, I also have a video, but I'm not sure that's gonna work. Okay, let me just try. Let me just move on to next. You didn't see this video. Yeah, and then 4 years ago, my parents they moved, to this house, and then they showed me some, dissatisfaction for living and discomfort, and then I won some prize award by this university and this, the house, and then now I'm very happy. Yeah. Okay, after this first building, I was commissioned by the government, the local government of Jinju. I mean, the Jinju is in the far southern area. I mean, they have the deep the history of culture, and then unfortunately, in the Korean world, most of old buildings destroyed. I mean, this one is the only the remaining the building that was also burned in Korean world, but they rebuilt because this is the most important building, the architecture building in this area. And there are also another modern the masterpiece. I mean, designed by Jung Kim. Jung Kim is the one of the prestigious architect in the mid 20th centuries, and he adopted kind of the way of architecture types. I mean, you can see the 6 pillars in the front, and you can see the high, big, the floating roof, and you also use the 6 pillars and also the floating, the idea of a floating roofs. Yeah. So, I mean, that is the site of my building, and this one is the location of the traditional building, you see. And this one is the location of the modern building designed by Jung Kim. That is also the important regeneration area of the city. They are trying to regenerate the old, the railway station. So they said, I mean, I'm gonna give you the small building, but the location of the site is super important for the city. So this is the photo of the city. I mean, the site is in the downtown of the city, but actually you can see the different feeling of atmosphere. So it's like I can see this location is a very interesting place between the nature and nature and the city. And I did the same way. So let me just go very quick. So I have 6 trees, and I have a floating, the loop. So I try to use the way of the expression in the traditional buildings. This is the scene at the night. And I mean, this building is it has to be, I have to have a different approach from the first building. The first building, I think, is more like interiorize, I mean, that is more for the interior space, but this building is for the exterior, because, citizens, they have to see kind of the way of a symbolic, the image of this building, the night, and you can see the 6 trees, and yeah, the photo from the construction, and when it's done at night. And yeah, I always use kind of metaphor about the trees, so you can see the architecture. I mean, artificial tree, and the shadow, natural tree, and you can also see the natural trees. yeah, interior space. Yeah, I also have let me just show the last video. Okay, sorry about not working well, but I think I hope this works for you. Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much. Both presentations were ones where we could see that these intersections with art and architecture, the boundary of the one and the other is not at all clear. So if anybody would like to talk to our speakers, I think we've probably got a time for 1 or 2 questions. If anybody would like to ask a question or make a comment. Yes.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yep.
It was very interesting, your description of your formation, the ideas and the research that you did. One thing you didn't explain was there's a very organic element to your work. I get the nature of in particular art and source inspiration. You didn't really explain that part of your formation and how that influences your approach to your designs and their integration of those designs into community space.
Yeah. Okay, the thing is, I'm sure I understand your question, but I'm not sure I can answer that perfectly. Okay, so because due to the limitation of time, I didn't explain, how to transform the traditional broadcast system to my one. But if you look at the broadcast system of traditional buildings, that is it has organic modularity. Yeah, they have some kind of expressions, ornamentations, but basically to see the basic, the logic of that broadcast system, I think it has very mathematically and organically generated. So, I thought, my education background is I'm Korean, but I got a very Western education, sometimes sadly, but and also I have a computational things as well, because this time this methodology is important. So when I did a study about the broadcast system and traditional building, I can see the possibility and chances to be recreated by the computational methodology. Is it answered? Okay. Yeah.
Actually, I am thinking about your work and you study in the US and what you use Asian culture to make your architecture work. That's my question. I'm not an architect, but the house you build. So can this work be transformed to other?
You mean the transform means?
Yeah, because the wood is not solid. So can you transform it to another
Oh, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do, but for example, the pavilion,
Yes.
I moved that to the other place. So is it your
Yes.
question? Yeah, it is transformable and it is
But you
movable.
dismantled it first, right?
Yes, I
And
have
you
to
needed
dismantle.
explain
Yeah,
it. It
you're right.
doesn't go in one piece.
No, I mean, I divide by 6 pieces. Yeah, yeah, and then I
It's
move
very
that.
heavy.
Yeah, it's not very heavy.
Oh,
10
maybe
people can, actually lift up.
And
Yeah,
it's very clever.
right. But I don't want to move that because it's very difficult job. Yeah, I was very struggling to move the pavilion to this campus. People think that was easy, but actually it's not easy at all. Yeah. But anyway, it is possible.
One more question and we'll go for coffee.
You mentioned the idea of architecture as a character in film. Maybe you can collaborate on that. I find that an interesting idea.
I think this presentation really complemented what I was trying to say, so I'll link the two. I mean, why did we see videos to explain architecture? Because if you just look at drawings, it doesn't come across how the light is interacting with the materials and the space. The atmosphere of the space is hard to understand just by looking at the plan. So all these qualities of architecture we see in film. And then the film director comes in, or in some of these examples where with fabulous photography, the photographer comes in, so it's mobile or not, audiovisual or not. It takes these qualities in the space and transforms it into a 2D surface, both in photography and film. And then think of all the tools, like a painter has different colors, the paint, the tones, and the filmmaker has the actors acting, the sound, but also the space, because even when Caravaggio, doesn't have a building around people, just by lighting a candle and reflecting that on people's faces creates this space of light without using architectural elements. So that space, that architecture in the film starts to become a character, speak on its own, give us emotions, give us feelings that we, first of all, understand the characters better, but also starts to resonate with us. We also look at our background, even without knowing, probably subconsciously, our memories of spaces, our understanding of lived space, and reflect that onto the spaces we see in film. So in films like Blade Runner, where we see a futuristic LA, the city becomes as important as Descartes, who is following the Kacmaz. Only maybe 5% of film directors pay a lot of attention to space and use it wisely, like Hitchcock and Tarkovsky and Kubrick, Wes Anderson. Those people are masters of space. Greenaway, Wim Wenders, and then you see they have limited sources, and space and architecture is a source, and they bring that into the film. That's why their films are better. And Hitchcock is considered to be a master of manipulating the viewer's emotions, and he really uses both the characters, the narrative, and the sound, but also film to achieve that. Does that answer the question?
Thanks. I think we'll agree that was a wonderful session and the two very different presentations did complement each other. So thank you very much to both of you. And it's time for coffee. Thank you. That was beautiful. Very beautiful.
Thank you so much.
There's coffee and dessert snack waiting for you, and you can take them